On this episode of the TrueIcon Podcast, I am talking with Reina Ciccarone, owner of Three-Tone Digital, who blends strategy, design, marketing, and digital support to help small businesses and also the community thrive. In my own words, Reina's a creative and collaborative genius, and she puts her vision to life. And that does not mean that she always had the background and the know how to do it all. She just did it, and she did it through the challenges. So I'm so excited to go into this topic of really that progression of that self-belief and action and bringing that vision to life. So for those who don't know, Reina, I'll let you introduce yourself in your own words.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored to be on this podcast. My name's Reina Ciccarone, and I am co-owner of Three Tone Digital. We are a web design, development, and digital solutions. We've been diving into AI. It's my husband and I, Tony, and we are super passionate about what we do. We are creatives at the core, and we also dive into events and community gatherings, which is a creative piece of what we do. So I'm excited to be here today and kind of talk about the story of how we came about.
Absolutely. And the part that I love too, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, is that creative side. And sometimes we'll go into exactly what that means. And if it's not a creative side, maybe it's tapping into your own strengths, whether it is very high attention to detail or other. So tapping into the strengths that you have. And I can also relate from the creative side with Reina. So, for those who don't know your full story, you didn't really follow the by the book route, but what did your early career look like? And maybe when did you realize the traditional path wasn't exactly for you?
So I started out, I'll go all the way back to college days. So I had a goal in mind and what was success, what I thought success to be for me would be graduating, working for a Fortune 500 company in the marketing, being able to create and be appreciated and move up within a company. And that's kind of what I thought. What was reality was I ended up graduating during the recession and I couldn't find a job. So I found myself doing temp work and doing different things to just try to gather and grow within a company. And I did a lot of odd jobs within certain industries. And I just found the same reoccurring theme of being in a company, not being able to be creative and kind of being placed in a box. And as a creative, this is the worst possible situation. I found myself unfulfilled. If I did have an idea, which I have ideas on a day-to-day basis, being shot down and being like, "Oh, that needs to be approved by so and so," and then it being denied. So that for me and my soul, that was something that I kept coming across in the beginning stages of my career, I found like, oh, I'll just go to the next job and I'll find it there. I'll go to the next job. And it just became a moment of taking a moment, looking at, okay, this keeps happening. Something needs to change. And having that self realization moment where you're like, I need to create something of my own. That's the only way I'm going to get out of this pattern.
I think that I can relate personally to that. And I don't know if I was able to define that side as much. Like, I knew something creative was missing, but I didn't think it. Yeah, I was so removed from creativity at that point. I'm wondering when you were younger too, did you always have that sense of creativity, with whether it was ideas or some type of art or anything?
Yeah, we have a very artistic family. Like my brother, he's an artist.
Hmm.
And I remember as a teenager always doing art was a big part of it. And I love doing collages. My room looked like a art museum because on every inch of the wall there were like posters, there was color, there was anytime I wanted to get creative, I would just collage and create these pieces, and I still have a picture. Mostly it was of boy bands, so I had the Backstreet Boys all over my wall because I was a super fan. And I would create all of these images. And what I didn't know and what I know today, that a lot of my art were vision boards. There were visions that I would want to see myself in the future. And I started that at a very young age and I like carried it over and made it a tradition. Like every year I do a vision board and I do it for my business. I do it with my kids and we look forward to the future and we set goals. So it's something that I had as a child and I still carry through adulthood. So, and it's nice to see like my kids doing it too. So it's like full circle.
That's fantastic. And honestly, that's a dream because the collages, it's very interesting how that comes to be now with vision boards. I've done vision boards at least the past 2 years and intentionally for goals. But I think that expression, you don't know you're building it when you're younger, but it's expressing what you actually want and you actually feel. So it's very cool to have that. And so the last few years, when you had the vision board, or maybe this particular season where you're at, what's currently either lighting you up or things you're excited about on those boards?
Yeah. So I think the most exciting pieces of the vision board for me is creating that latte learning. I'm really excited about those. And just to give you a little backstory about that, I'm passionate about it because when I started networking and I started going out there and promoting our business, I went to a lot of different events and I just saw all the opportunities of what type of event do I really want to be at and what type of event do I want to experience? So I took all the things I didn't like and I was like, this is how it could be better. So latte learning is an experience. It is taking networking and just really turning it into something that doesn't feel stiff, that feels natural, that feels flowing, that feels creative and being able to do it in a way that brings community together and makes them exciting. I used to walk into rooms and just you just feel the stiff energy and just the phony fakeness of it all. And that is the complete opposite of what latte learning is. We bring in learning, digital learning. So every meetup, there's an experience and a digital component to it. So we're teaching people how they can use technology at every meetup and we create an experience around it. And then a lot of times we're promoting local cafes and local women business owners. So that is something that is beyond just, it's nothing to do with big corporations. It's all small business. It's all people that you don't have to pay to play. You know what I mean? It's something that is who represents us. Like we're talking to small business owners. We want to help them. We want to help people that are just starting off in their business and have these real conversations and real ways to help them. So that's the mission behind latte learning. And I'm very passionate about it. Every month we have a meetup and we're looking to pull new people in and also to educate. We have all this technology and we're local. Come to us and learn how you can level up with your business. We want to be those digital experts. So being able to be in the room with us, you can also improve your business by just tapping into what we know because we know a lot about this stuff. So
Yeah.
being able to give back in that way is it's just a passion of mine that is exciting and it's new every time. And as a creative, you want to change, you want to be dynamic, you want to evolve. And every meetup is not going to be the same. It's going to be different. It's going to be there's going to be a new venue every time and a new person that I'm collaborating with. So that's what makes it special. So that's the main thing on my vision board that I'm
Yeah.
super excited about is just creating that experience every month.
And that experience, I love how it blends the technology and the community and the small businesses because no matter what, if you like it or not, digital is here to stay, AI is here. Like how can we embrace that while staying true to our values and passions and be real people? That stuffy feeling in some spaces is challenging to the point where it's hard to know how you can be yourself. And is this a safe space to share my own ideas? And I've been to a few of your events as well, and I do vouch for the fact that it is a community that does bring people together and sees them for who they are and the skills they bring, while educating if there is a technical side that can enhance them to further showcase their uniqueness, their business's new uniqueness, and it transcends just that one environment, because now you have someone tapping into their true and their full values, thus also on their business side. And then once that grows, then okay, now it continues to inspire other people to action, to take their vision seriously and take the steps on theirs. And I'm so excited to continue going deeper into the reason behind some of those passions. I'm sure there's a reason behind giving back to the communities and tying that creative side between you and Tony and what you've built, and how that helps your own business and family and blending the two. And before we dive into that story, from anyone who might know you or may not, what could be something that might be a little surprising for them to understand, whether it is personal or your own goals, or something you thought you wanted and you didn't, something that could be maybe not as known for everyone?
I think a lot of the times when I'm in a room and I mention my children, nobody people are surprised I have 4 kids. And
Yeah.
that being a mother is the most important job for me, and it was my first real job. So that is something that's surprising, that it's not just Tony and I, we have a family. Well, this is a family-run business. We wake up and we think about, okay, our family first off and providing for our family. So it's very different. We don't clock in. Like every day is like we show up and we like breathe out our business. It's so important. It is a sole provider for our children. So when we work on projects and when we do things, it's you're having owners work on your projects. You're having people who this is how we make a living. So it's very different than somebody clocking in. It's like, this is how I pay for my mortgage. This is how I feed
Yeah.
my kids.
No
Like
pressure.
I am going to do an amazing job on this project.
Yeah.
So it's something that it's hard to communicate, but working with us, it's a different experience. Our reputation is everything to us. So we have strong values that we live by because this is how we make our living. This is how, as a business owner, we move on. There is no fallback plan. Like, this is our plan. So
Yeah.
that is something that we're super passionate, and I wish we could communicate that in a way that people can really see that different, because you can hire anybody, but somebody who lives and breathes this and it is the sole reliant on it is always, for me, I'm just speaking for us, like we're gonna do an amazing job, and we will take the time and the extra thought into putting your project together and making sure that you're satisfied with your website. We want you to succeed, and we go the extra mile because we want to have a good experience so you can share that with other people, right?
Yeah.
And also for us to have a great portfolio item of saying, "Hey, this business got a new website, is getting new leads, and has a strategy in place, and we helped another small business." And that means so much to both of us, that that's what drives us every day, and to be able to give back in that way.
And it's, I know it's probably very challenging between the pressure of the success and the deadlines and the creativity side, because I know that there is that balance between stress and creativity. You need that space and that environment and all of those things to help you have time to digest those ideas and have things come to the surface to implement them paired with your home life. I find that very interesting, and we'll go into that a little bit more, go through that journey full circle. So when we go back, so maybe in early Reina's days, you mentioned maybe after college things were a bit challenging, maybe when you're more in that routine state where you felt that you were in a box, maybe going through the motions. What were you feeling then? Which I'm sure this whole story goes back to the ending of what you do in the community. So, what were you feeling back then when you might have been going through motions of what you thought success was? You're working towards that goal of success. What were you thinking? What were you feeling in that state?
I felt like it was like I would show up to work and I just have to get these tasks done. And then there would be like a review period. I just felt like there's just this constant routine of satisfying my manager.
Yeah.
Like, there was no big picture. I felt like I was just showing up and clocking in and then clocking out without any idea on my future and how I wanted to truly live my life. I felt like I was following everybody else. Like, I felt like I was like a minion amongst many minions, clocking in, sitting at my desk, and just feeling like there's more to life than this. I've thought about it, and I don't want to work, 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 work all my life and then be old and say, okay, it's retirement. Let's go travel. Like, I want to
Yeah.
enjoy life now while I'm young. I don't wanna be just, like, working crazy and then be a 60-year-old woman being like, "Yeah, I'm going to the Bahamas now."
Yeah.
Like, I'm all wrinkly and stuff, like, who wants to wait till then? So I had these moments and these, like, clips in my head where I'm like, "I can't do this. I can't just sit here in this chair and be stuck." It's not healthy for my mind, body, or soul. And I need to move, like, a creative
Yeah.
needs to move. Sometimes I'm sitting, but a lot of times I take a mental break and go for a walk and think through my ideas. Maybe I'll take a break and do yoga. Take multiple breaks throughout the day to move my body because I can't just stay still. The energy has to flow in order for the idea to come fully to, realization, to be able to map it out appropriately. I'm not just going to be sitting all day. And those corporate jobs are not good for your body.
Yeah.
So that's one of the best things about working for yourself. I create my own schedule. Some days are busy, other days aren't, and I get to choose that. I get to choose to be there for my daughter's chorus concert, and I don't have to report to anybody to say, "Hey, I'm not going to make it." So I can be able to maintain that healthy balance between being there for my children and also showing up at work so I can control that piece of it. And corporate America is not for a family of 6, I'll tell you that. It's not. We have
Yeah.
4 kids and there's always appointments going on, there's always somebody getting sick. There's rules in place and I get that piece of it, but not it doesn't work for our lives.
Yeah, and I think that blend between having the structure where it was maybe hard to have that creativity as well as the movement and that side of things, and also you it seemed like you had this other vision. What it seemed like what success was here was ahead, and then that vision of success sounded awful because it's like, "Okay, I'll retire and then live my life then." And then it's like it seemed like that started to fade maybe, like that whole, like, "I'm gonna do this corporate ladder, I'm gonna work in this element and plug away," but then what am I working for? I'm working for the last part of my life versus now. Is that resonate?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was like a program. Like I felt like I was programmed to go to high school, go to college, finish college, and then work till 65. Like that was the narrative everywhere I went. Like, you're not successful unless you go to college. And college in itself was very difficult for me. I was not given any money. I had to work 3, 4 jobs to get through. Working hard started right when I turned 18 and realizing, hey, college isn't free. It's pretty expensive. And you gotta figure out how to pay for your books. You gotta figure out the dorm situation. Oh, and your parents don't have money. So you just gotta figure it all out at
Yeah.
18. So I still look back at that, and I had to get creative as being a college student and figured out, how am I going to pay for this? And it took a lot of jobs. It took a lot of letters. I wrote letters to the president of my college asking to be able to get through because of my circumstance. It took financial aid, it took loans to be able to finish. And it was a struggle. And that was how life just got really real for me through that time. I saw the difference between other people attending and then my struggle. And there was a clear difference that I had to work really, really hard to even get through. So seeing that piece of it, and then after college thinking, oh, I'm going to get a nice little break. I'm going to get my job. It was going to be all worth it. And no, the struggle really continued after that.
The struggle continues.
Yeah, exactly. So, no breaks here. Everything I created, I had to create and on my own and find solutions to be able to reach my goals. Was not I don't come from money. I never had money. So, in a way, I'm very creative in how I
Yeah.
move through life.
And it's interesting because in one way you did not know it at the time. You were creating things in other environments and learning the money situation and learning how to take care of yourself and doing the things that people weren't, in terms of reaching out to the president. And you again had that goal, that vision, you were acting towards it. And it's not like you were doing the motions. It's very interesting how, what you thought you wanted, say, okay, I could finally relax after going and getting to school and getting all those jobs, so I could relax in this one job, and or however many, and just do the jobs. And then there's more. It's like there's more out there. This isn't it. And those moments combined help to give you the experience later on that you might have never known was an option.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it really is something that I haven't really truly reflected, but I was being creative all my life,
Yeah.
like to even survive, and then on top of those just financial challenges, not taking no for an answer. I think that was a big thing. I would go to a guidance counselor, let's say for college, and they would look at my circumstance and say, you need to go to community college. You can't afford it. Like, that's the solution. And I walked out of that office, and in that moment I said, no, I'm not. That's not the route that I'm choosing. I'm going to figure out a way to graduate and get this done. And having people say no or saying you can't do that, I realized it is a motivator for me.
Yeah.
You tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. Like, I have that in me, and I don't know where that comes from. It can just come from my values in myself and faith. I think that's a big thing because my mom and how my family we were raised with having faith in God and believing in yourself and turning to your faith in times of trouble. And I do remember doing that in college. I was praying a lot. Like, I was so at a point where I was like, this is the only, I need a higher power here
Yeah.
because I don't know another way, and that gave me that resilience to keep pushing. So those are moments that I kind of look back on, and I'm grateful for the challenge because looking back now, I don't think I could have pushed forward if I didn't have those struggles in the beginning. Because a lot of the struggles and the things that I looked at, like on paper, it says I should not be here. But I graduated and was able to graduate with honors and move on and get my degree. On paper, when we started our business, we didn't know like when our next client was going to come in, or on paper it was looking like, well, who knew what was going to happen next month?
Yeah.
But we just kept on going. Like, I think if you look at certain things and on a paper value without faith, you're easily going to stop and you're going to say, no, this doesn't make sense. Like, look at this. It doesn't make sense for you to go forward because you don't know what's going to come in, in the back end. So, that piece of it, I still carry on because I seen it work when I was in college and now in my personal life, and now us running a business. It might not look like but it takes that faith in order to continue on, and that's what I've kind of learned throughout, life.
You help other businesses and people do the same. You help people who are going through the parts where they are trying to find their vision, and maybe that's also a separate skill of you having a vision that is so strong. You help them with their own vision and see their vision and take actions to build that, because I mean, honestly, who was doing that for you? You had faith and letting go, and that could lead to beautiful things. A lot of things we don't know are even options, and then you have people in your circle that help, but it's a lot of the systems, and it seems like you had to work through those systems, through the barriers, through the looking around and seeing everyone else isn't experiencing this the same way as me. So it's very interesting how that does come to fuel that passion, because I was wondering how that is so strong, and it's strong because it's so fueled from inside, and now you have the skills and the expertise and the trust in yourself and your own actions because you've been doing it for so long, let alone vision boarding and creating when you were younger. I mean, it's pairing that with the why and the how for other people too. A larger thing.
Yeah, and I think too, it is being in having a partner like
Mm,
Tony
that's true.
who believes in you.
Yeah.
I've been in other situations where I didn't have that support, and he's my biggest fan. He encourages me, even my craziest ideas. He's down for it. I'm like, I don't even know how sometimes I say things and I'm like, boy, I'm driving him crazy because I have some ideas that I have to get out, and I taught and he gets to hear all of them. He's a lucky guy. But he's able to still support me, and he'll to be honest too, all my ideas are not great. Sometimes he's like, "We gotta think that through a little bit," you know? But in stuff that I'm really passionate about, he's there for me and he supports that idea, and that's so hard to find somebody who is supportive in that way and makes your light brighter, because there's a lot of people trying to dim your light out there. And having your husband, to be that biggest fan, just to have that one person is so amazing to me. And I think I've been looking for that. And when I finally found it, like, this is something that I truly cherish. And that's what really got us to this next level. Because even before Tony, I had it in me to be an entrepreneur and have my own business, but I could never fully take it there, and I needed him to kind of join forces to create what we have today.
And I appreciate that, and I want to emphasize that too, that, you were in your own journey and building it, and for anyone else, a lot of the times, success isn't when it's just one person doing it alone. There's some support, some type of environment, even if it's the things you learn of having maybe not the best bosses. There's things
Uh-huh.
that you pick up along the way, and that support system. Even Tony, I mean, he was at the most recent event I was with you, and that support is amazing. And it's funny because sometimes you mentioned crazy ideas. You know what's even crazier? When those ideas work, when
Yeah.
they work and they happen, and then there's the, "Oh, I told you so," but it's not even about that anymore. It's not even about proving it. It's about that vision that's now a reality, and it was not in the world, and now it's in the world, and now it's growing. Because such a crazy idea, but, who is I don't know, but who's ballsy enough to take the action and do it? That's the hard part.
It is, it is. To actually see it through, like, Latte Learning started out as a newsletter. It was my LinkedIn newsletter every month. And then things were shifting, and I was like, well, I want to create events that are meaningful and are experience. Why don't we just take Latte Learning? We called it Go on Tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's a crazy thing to say, like, can only celebrities go on tour? Why can't we just go on tour to different cafes and
Yeah.
highlight the cafes? And that's how it started. And that was kind of a crazy idea. If we were like super rich, we would have a tour bus and I'd be able to really live my full ideas. But I totally agree that seeing it come to life, seeing other people appreciate it, it's so fulfilling, like, more than money, I think, like, to be able
Yeah.
to say, "This idea worked and people are benefit f and connecting," and it is something that does something for me, money's great too,
Yeah.
but,
And you
to
need that
start
to
off.
fuel the other stuff,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not about that only. Because I
No.
mean, how many times you hear people get money and they get maybe a lot of it to the point where they're still looking for that fulfillment. So it's not money, but then they put the energy into the money, into the recognition, into all of those things that they think is success. And they're not looking over here, which could be maybe it is giving back, maybe it is a creative vision. And it's like, sometimes we're afraid to do that because what happens if I fail? Or sometimes it's what happens if I succeed? Because if I succeed, now I'm going to have to address all this other stuff that I said about myself that I'm too shy or too this or whatever. And oh, I can't change that. That's too scary. But what if you take that step a little bit out of your comfort zone, maybe a lot of it out of your comfort zone, and get to that point that's fulfilling in a way you would have never experienced before because of that block. I think it goes back to when you said earlier in the beginning of I'd rather, do it now than reach when I'm older and wish I did. It's you can have a life full of that and that can change and that could be beautiful and do it afraid, do it through the hard points.
Yeah, and as a creative, you're always trying things and some things aren't gonna work. And we'll sit there and at least you put it out there. You created your canvas and it might not hit now, it might hit later, but at least you put it down and you're showing the world. So a lot of the ideas that we do, it's best to just put it out there and see what happens and be able to look back and say, okay, this connected, or maybe we need to tweak it. So it's a live experiment being a creative, and seeing what areas resonate at this moment in time. And maybe we can go back to a past idea and say, okay, let's bring this back and tweak it because now it makes sense to show it. So it's definitely a process. And I do think people are just afraid to fail and the fear of putting something out there but and not having it perform a certain way. But realizing that the worst thing you can do is just not do it. You know what I mean? Non-action. At least you can say you did it?
Yeah. And can you help put us to that point? So specifically, when you were saying, okay, we might be afraid of failing or afraid to take the action. What about when we going back to when you okay, you were in corporate and you realized, okay, this might not be for me. What got you from that to trying things on your own? And I guess there's two parts. Like one, what did you have to what barriers, internal, external, did you face in that point? Whether it's fear, whether it's self-belief, whether it's external factors or support. And then what did you do despite that?
I think it's normal to have some type of doubt. Like when you're gonna leave your 9 to 5, financially, that was always gonna be a barrier. What am I gonna do? Like, am I gonna be able to make enough? Right now, I'm sure to get this amount every month. By doing this, I'm very unsure on what that number is gonna look like and if I'm going to be able to provide. For my circumstance, I was going through a period of had Sienna and my daughter. So I was off on maternity leave at that time. And I had to make a decision. Do I go back or do I try to work on my own business? So I went through a series of a period of time where I kind of struggled and I said, okay, well, I'm going to spend time with my daughter and then start building and start thinking about what that business would look like. In the midst of it, I was just living life. So I had a lot of real life situations. Probably like I went through things that maybe a 50-year-old. I should be 50 by now.
Yeah.
Like I adopted my half sister. Like there were some real core things that I started adding to my family. And then it wasn't till I had Landon, which is the fourth child, where I was still working for a business, but it was like part-time and it was virtual. So I started shifting to virtual life so I can maintain my family life as well as build, but then have that income. So I started out doing both. And then I got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to 100% focus on the business. I need to burn the boats. I need to just have this one and fully give the energy. I read all the books. Saying like you need to put all your energy into this, and it's easier said than done, right? But I did do it, and that's a very scary place to be, having 4 children and
Yeah.
then saying, "We don't really know what's gonna happen, but we're gonna give it a whirl." Tony, too, had a full-time job. It was virtual, so he's working for an international company, and he was half, focusing on the business.
Yeah.
The universe worked itself out. He ended up getting laid off. So now we're in a situation where we don't have any backup plans. Like it's just, we're going to do this business and we're going to make it work. And that's where we started putting all our energy into the business. That's when we started investing in ourselves, going out, networking, making it 100%. And that changed everything.
Yeah.
There was a shift when you don't have a backup plan, when there's nothing, and you go 150%, and you have somebody beside you that is also going even further than you could go. That's when things changed for us, and we saw a a turn of, the faith was there, being able to believe that we can get clients, the confidence came. Tony took more time than me to adapt to this new mindset, because when you're used to working 100% for a corporation or a company, it's very scary not to just to be able to just say, no, I don't do that. I have to figure out my own schedule. I have to find my own clients. There's a reason why not
Yeah.
everyone does this,
Yep. I understand that.
But I was, I knowing my history of how I was in college and I had to get through that and through certain challenges in my life, I had more of a mental, I'm going to figure this out, and we're going to figure this out together. But he soon came like my level of just being like, we're doing this. So we have this thing that we say like, we're really doing this, and it's from this show. It's a word of encouragement to say, not we're about to do this, we're actually doing this.
Yeah.
And that's a reminder, like we're actively making our dreams and creating the life that we want.
I believe I can see how, say you said maybe nothing, you had nothing per se in terms of like the back support of corporate financials and all of like that structured, but you had faith. You had faith and you had belief in yourself, so much so that when you combine that, you started to do the motions and you were doing the motions, and then it started getting momentum because of that. And it's interesting. I also know, so I left my corporate job a year and a half ago or more, and it was very hard for me to go into the full structure. And I worked a lot too. I was doing my MBA, I was doing personal training on the side, and working as a data analyst during the day. So I was in all buckets, and my life was no free time and all structure, to starting my own thing, finally graduating from my MBA, and now I'm like, whoa, it's all me, and it's all me now. And my husband does his own thing separately, but also still works at corporate. So I had a hard time with that shift. I had a hard time because it was also so different than what I was used to, that it's like, okay, well, I got to put focus on the business. And then I got my client calls and my client meetings, and that's very important. And on top of that, I need to get my business plan and all of the things, the accounting, the QuickBooks, all number of things that I'm sure you had to deal with, which is just more things to do. of the grand scheme of things that people might not think about when you launch and you go to that point. So you're networking, and then it's, I'm sure, the time of networking time versus working on business time. And then if you have too much time in the community, then you're not working with business or your clients. And it's a very delicate balance. And you had each other, which you can at least experience it differently, but together.
Uh-huh.
And that, I'm sure, fueled so many things from where you are now. And as we get through to more of the where you are now, and we could bring Tony into this as well, because it is that life that is created. I mean, with family and work, going through all of those hard things and going through the challenges, how, I guess, what are you most proud of that you pushed through all of those things, said yes to yourself, said yes to your own talent and skills to get to where you are now? What are you really proud of for that? Why would someone else even try to go through those hard things?
I think being able to wake up every morning and not feel the rush of running into the office, I think about that at least once a week, especially during the winter time.
Yes.
So I'm extremely proud that we're living our dream of owning our own business. And I think we're just getting started where there's always that level and push to achieve more. And I do feel that. But I don't wanna take away the fact that I'm super grateful for that we can find clients, make money, and support our family. That to me is living the dream that I've always seen. I have more dreams, and they're bigger.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't
Having
wanna take
Adrian.
away from that, that that is something and that my children are able to see that and they see that we created this space. I want to be able to have them really take that in and understand that they don't have to settle and they don't have to go along with the narrative of you have to do this in order to be successful. And if you don't like your circumstance, you can change it. We're building something here and if my kids want to be part of it, they can. I'm not going to force them to, but to understand that you have the ability to create something new for yourself, something more fulfilling, and you don't just have to, let's say, follow society's rules. Like you can create your own. So that's something that we're living what we want to give back to our kids. Like we want them to take and see how we're living our lives and use that as a skill of their own that they one day can be live their lives as young adults and not have to feel like they have to report or do this way. I don't know where they're going to go in life, but I do know that I want to give them the faith and the ability to pivot if they need to pivot and saying, "Hey, mom and dad did it, we can do it too."
They don't have to settle for something that doesn't resonate with them at any point, and that can change. And I want to emphasize that this is a legacy you have now. Sometimes we always think that, okay, when I'm 65 in the Bahamas or
Yeah.
whatever, I have built this legacy. And I don't think we think enough about now. You have a family who is learning the, not only the walk the walks, I mean the jump in and dive in and change things on the spot and have the bigger ideas and think bigger than you thought you could. And they're seeing all of this live, and not only from that creative side from them, with them, that's the actions and staying true to values. And no matter where they, I say they because you mentioned your children so much, and how can them living true to their values just go in so many levels, whether personally, professionally, however, how they treat one another peer to peer. And that plus all of the stuff you are doing with the business and helping other businesses and the community aspect, which ties back to those values. So I want to emphasize that we have a legacy. We have an impact now. And with your dreams you hinted on, it's one of several dreams. Maybe I say 10 years time because it's actionable, where would you want your impact to be then? Like 10 years from now, 20, yeah, 36.
I know. All right. So it's hard to kind of envision. I have things in my head of what I want to build, want to continue. We want to continue to be able to make an impact and help small businesses because I feel like a lot of the times these small businesses get either taken advantage of by bigger agencies and saying, oh, you have to pay all of this money to have a beautiful website that works when in fact you don't. And you can still create and have a level of a beautiful design as well as working functionality and have it grow with your business. So to continue making that impact to small businesses is a passion of ours because that's who we are, you know. So helping that. I see us being able to build a digital tool that is something that can benefit small businesses and evolve over time. So that's something that we want to do and kind of put out there in the long term of having some type of software that people can integrate into their websites and that will be a product that we would sell. So having a digital product is one of the goals of the business. Building on more collaborations, community events, latte learning, expanding that more. I do wanna say that I saw a shift when we started collaborating with the right people.
Yeah.
There's
Yes.
a lot of amazing women out there. There's a lot of events that we've done. Destiny, Kima, Miranda, Jennifer, a lot of different connections, Allison, Bayer. There's been a shift when we've started branching out and resonating with people that have our similar values and actually want to see you succeed,
Yes.
you know, and not everybody does. So
Not
when you
everyone
see
does.
those, when you align yourself with women who are really trying to honestly, you know, they believe and they want to support you and they are 100% just, you know, trying to elevate you as well as also elevating themselves. Like it just starts happening organically. So those collaborations and picking those and seeing where that grows, I do want to do more of those type of things. So that's something that I look forward to and
Yeah.
seeing what type of experiences, bigger experiences will lead within that 10 years. Like, you know, retreat style.
Yeah.
Wakina is another person who we've been collaborating with for latte learnings, and I've seen a huge difference in experiences having her go in there. She does all intentional events and decor. So seeing that piece of it and the personalization and the care for each event that's being done, it's just a game changer, and I wanna lean more into that type of experience, and if you pull the women that are the experts in what they do, it's like it just blossoms.
Yes.
So, I started seeing
Genuinely.
that, and I wanna lean more into those collaborations.
And that blends the technology and the experience and the intentionality together. And I'm excited for you and I'm excited to see more of that in the world. And yes, I know that's 10 years. I mean, I'm sure maybe it'll happen in 5, who knows? But or maybe it'll be your own tour bus.
Yeah, exactly. We'll actually go on tour. Maybe we'll go outside of New York, you know, who
Yeah, go to the
knows?
retreats and have
Yeah.
a experience. So as we get towards the end, I would say one thing, and from a high level, we've talked a lot about this, but how right now is one of the key things for staying true to yourself.
I would say for me, my intuition, if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Like, I think my values, sticking to my values, not saying yes to everyone. Respect is huge for me, and that includes in the client relationships and people out there. And if lines are crossed, it's okay to pivot and end things. Like, I'm at that point where if something is just not right or is done in a way that crosses a line, it's okay not to continue and to step back and just say, this is not going to work, and move forward in a different direction. There are things that have happened that we had to look at it and say, this is not for us. This is no longer serving us. And we can't, we have to pivot from here. So that is a new thing that I'm more comfortable with now, I think, at our journey. And it was something that shifted from when we were in the beginning where we just said yes to everyone. Now, no is a full sentence. I finally understand that. No. It is when you have to say it, you have to say it. So I'm feeling more comfortable with the word no.
That is also game changing, more comfortability in that no, because it leads to those yeses, it leads to those genuine connections. And it's again staying more true to those values, and instead of having going back to the beginning of the stuffy networking, the I give you this, you give me this, it's more of okay, how can we build something beautiful together, or at least maybe one person or one business works on one thing, and then the next time it's somewhere else, and then it's that ebb and flow of that creation process. And that creation process doesn't even have to be quote unquote creative in so many levels, whether it's a technical side or, you need the finances and everything to get through a lot of goals, and talking to those experts. And I know I'm highlighting some people as well as we come up in the next few months in those spaces of the behind the scenes, that a lot of times those are the challenging parts. So yes, yes, comma. No is a full sentence, period.
Yeah, I heard, you hear about those sayings and you're like, but it's true. And,
It
and,
is
and I
true.
don't know why people get so uncomfortable with that. Like I'm over the fluff. I'm over the corporate of, it just needs to be no, and it's okay to say no. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that now. I know we are to save our energy and to focus it on the right things. It comes with the no first, and then being able to shift and do what makes you more comfortable, what fits in with your values, to go forth with that and then pivot from there.
It's been challenging. I've been listening to that gut a lot more the last year, and it has changed everything for me. So I highly recommend that. And as we move forward with um saying yes to the good things and no for the things that don't resonate, here's two ways that we can help listeners going forward. So one, first, where can they find you?
Anyone can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram, but LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me, send me a message. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
And then from a high level, as we close, I'll let you come up with the words of what's something, even if it's small, that someone listening who either is at the cusp of acting on their idea or vision, or believing in themselves, or in the rut of those challenges, maybe working those jobs and figuring out, okay, I have to go through this to get to what I don't know. What's something small, even if it's a mindset or whatever, that can help someone maybe in the next 24 hours, something they can do today, just some type of shift or mindset that can help them in those moments of challenge.
I would say take some time to unplug. Doesn't require your phone, and take time to just be present in your own thoughts. And if you channel from within, and you're more likely to come to that solution. I think following your gut is key, and listening to your feelings when something comes up, to take a moment and listen to your body and how it reacts to certain things. I would also say, be wary of just following the crowd, because a lot of the times other people's probably 100% of the time, other people's path isn't your path. It's just because it worked for somebody doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. So that's why channeling from within and having time to really think your own thoughts through and understanding your passions is key. So try to quiet the noise and really take a moment for yourself and see where you see yourself. If you're feeling anxious about it, I don't think that's a bad thing in a way. Like sometimes anxiety is just because you're going through something new that you haven't done. For me, I'm an introvert, and public speaking isn't something that comes naturally to me, but I still put myself in those situations because I want to grow. And I might be a little anxious at first, but then once I get into it, it's perfectly fine. So don't be afraid to trying something new, or being uncomfortable is okay. To do something out of your comfort zone, to be able to overcome it, and then really soak that in when you overcome it.
Well, take the time to listen to your gut, quiet the noise, being present in the moment, and letting whatever everyone else is doing go, to let whatever comes inside come out into the real world, into that vision or that beautiful journey that each individual person has in their own life. So thank you, Reina, so much for sharing all of the insights, and look forward to seeing you around on that tour bus.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.